Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It is Monday, July 15th. I'm Michelle Heron. Here are your crime headlines. A judge sentenced Brian Smith to more than 200 years in prison for killing 2 women in Alaska. The jury found the 53-year-old guilty of killing Veronica Abachuk and Kathleen Jo Henry in February. Smith was connected to the murders from an SD card that contained gruesome photos and videos. Smith was sentenced to 226 years in prison. A California judge is expected to announce her decision today regarding the testing of evidence in the Scott Peterson case. It's all part of Peterson's effort for a new trial. In May, the judge granted testing on more than a dozen physical pieces of evidence, and now the judge will decide where the items will be tested and who will pay for it. Peterson was convicted of killing his wife Lacey and their unborn child in 2005. Peterson has always maintained that he is innocent. Defense attorneys representing Alec Murdaugh are asking the South Carolina Supreme Court to take a look at his appeal. Murdaugh's attorneys filed the new motion asking them to bypass the Court of Appeals and take up the issue themselves. The defense's main argument is whether Justice Jean Toll relied on incorrect case law in deciding Murdaugh would not get a new trial. Murdaugh is currently serving 2 life sentences plus decades in the murders of his wife Maggie, son Paul, as well as financial crimes. While Murdaugh has admitted to his guilt in stealing from his clients, he has maintained that he is innocent in the murders. Hello, friends. We are so glad that you are with us for this latest episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly. We hope wherever you are listening at this time that you're staying cool and hydrated and, making it through this heat wave, because I'll tell you, Heather, it's rough over here in Tennessee. Heather Holley's joining us. And Heather, how are you doing?
Doing all right. Very glad for air conditioning. I'm not one of those people who should have been born in a different time. No, I'm right where I belong.
Yes, absolutely. This weekend has just been rather toasty, and I'm not going to lie, I've stayed inside for pretty much all of it.
I did take my kids to the passage by the aquarium yesterday, and it was surprisingly not as crowded as I expected, and most of it was in the shade, so that was an A+ outing, and we got ice cream. So
yeah, there you go. So this week we are drinking Dark Horse Chardonnay. This is the second time that we've tried a Dark Horse wine. You may remember we tried their rosé back in May, and it was pretty good. I definitely liked it. So we wanted to give their Chardonnay a try. So a little bit about this wine, the 2021 Dark Horse Chardonnay. It's a full-bodied, silky white wine from California. It opens with aromas of ripe peach, mango, pineapple, and honeysuckle. Bright notes of white nectarine, lemon curd, guava, and honey play on the palate before finishing with notes of toasty vanilla oak. So Heather, cheers to you.
Cheers. Moment of truth.
Yes. Smells good. Ooh, I like that. To me, it doesn't even taste like a Chardonnay.
I was going to say, I think we've only done like 2 Chardonnays maybe in this.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have the butteriness like other Chardonnays do. I wouldn't call it.
Which I will say, they do have another Chardonnay, and that one's called like buttery Chardonnay. So if that is like something that you really like, they do have another one. But yeah, this one, it's really light. It kind of reminds me of a Pinot Grigio a little bit.
Yeah. But I definitely get that like oakiness at the end. That's really heavy for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm drinking it wrong. I do tend to gulp. Maybe I should sip.
Well, you're not chugging it, and you're not shooting it, so
I could.
Let's not do that.
I'm off tomorrow. I can.
Oh man. Okay, yeah, you can then. Oh man. This is pretty good though. I like it. I would get this again. Now I think I'm turned on to, just like the Prophecy, like I think I'm turned on to Dark Horse too. It also reminds me of the song,
the Katy Perry song
by Katy Perry. Yeah, like every time that I see it and I say it in my head, like that song pops in. It's a good song.
It's a good song. I can't get over the music video being ancient Egyptian and having like nothing to do
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
horse or but anyway, that's irrelevant to anything we're doing here.
But I will say, like, I love that you have also seen the music video, because nowadays you rarely see music videos anymore, because like back in the day when I was growing up, like that's what MTV and VH1 did, and you knew all the music videos. But now, like, you have to like look it up. So
And I still will look it up.
yeah, if you like haven't seen the music video for Katy Perry's Dark Horse, you should look it up.
It's pretty on brand though. Like all of her music videos that I've seen are like a weird little LSD trip. Not very related to the song, but somehow kind of get there. Like, I don't know.
But hey, it has to be fun, like dressing up and all those crazy costumes and makeup and all that. I mean, if there's a time to do it, I would think like a music video is one of those.
For sure, for sure.
Okay. Lots going on this week.
Just ahead on Crime Over Wine Weekly, a young Georgia girl vanished 25 years ago. What one organization recently did to help generate new leads. Plus, a man charged with kidnapping and holding a woman captive is now charged in another woman's death. How the two cases may be connected.
Crime Over Wine is sponsored by BetterHelp. As someone who's used therapy for years, I know that finding a therapist can sometimes be a stress on its own, juggling your full-time job, your family, your friends, your podcast, and trying to find the right therapist on top of that can almost feel impossible. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist that works for you on your terms. It's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to one of 33,000 licensed professional therapists in as little as a few days. And because finding a new therapist is a lot like finding a new bottle of wine, if you don't jive with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no additional cost. You can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to betterhelp.com/crimeoverwine. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/crimeoverwine for 10% off your first month. Join over 4 million people who decided to get help and get happy with BetterHelp.
Welcome back to Crime Over Wine Weekly. We take you to Oklahoma now, where a search is underway for a woman who investigators say went missing under suspicious circumstances. Harmony Gail Jacks was last seen around 3:30 Sunday morning. Investigators say the 24-year-old was driving from Pensacola to the Greenwood area. She was driving a red 2012 Nissan Altima with Oklahoma license plate JYD 879. The front bumper is damaged or missing. She is described as 5'1", about 160 pounds, and has red hair and blue eyes. Police ask you to call 911 if you see her.
A Middle Georgia girl has been missing for 25 years, but her family investigators aren't giving up hope that Shakima Pate, or Shy Shy as loved ones call her, will be found. Shy Shy was 8 years old when she vanished from her Unadilla home on September 4th, 1998. She was playing outside, but when her older sister went to find her, she wasn't there. Within 24 hours, people from across 4 communities formed a large search party, but the little girl wasn't found. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed photo of Pate last fall, hoping it would help generate new leads. Shy Shy's story will be featured in an episode of Dateline's Missing in America this Thursday. Shy Shy would be 34 years old today. She has a surgical scar along her waist and a scar near her eye. If you have any information about this case, call the Dooley County Sheriff's Office at 229-645-0920. A Missouri man charged with kidnapping, raping, and holding a woman captive until she escaped in 2022 now faces a murder charge in a different case. Prosecutors announced Timothy Hazlitt Jr. was indicted on a first-degree murder charge last week. This is in connection to the death of Janie Crossdale. Kayakers discovered her skeletal remains in a barrel in the Missouri River last summer. Investigators believe Hazlitt killed Crossdale sometime between June 6, 2022 and October 7, 2022. According to the indictment, photos on one of Hazlitt's devices showed Crossdale in his basement. The blue barrel she was found in also matched others on his property. Police connected Crossdale to the unnamed woman who escaped in a Facebook post. The January 2023 post said she was potentially a witness and they needed help finding her. The victim who escaped, Hazlitt told police, he said there were 2 other women who didn't make it. She said he threatened to suffocate her and put her in a barrel, quote, like the rest of them. Investigators won't say if Hazlitt is suspected of other murders at this time. Hazlitt's been in jail since October 2022. He was previously charged with first-degree rape, sodomy, kidnapping, assault, and endangering a child. He remains in jail on a $5 million bond.
This is crazy. It's reminding me of that case out of Ohio where the 3 women escape. Is there more here? I mean, like, have they released any more information about this situation? Because this is just insane.
There are some other details in the court documents that are more elaborate in what he did to these women, so I intentionally left some of those out. They are out there online if you want to read those specifics. Some other things, though, that are worth mentioning: the woman that he's charged with murder and the woman he's charged with kidnapping and raping are Black women. According to the indictment, he referred to the woman who survived as his sex slave and abused her daily. And he had made Facebook posts calling for the return of, quote, severe punishment like chain gangs. And that he supports the, quote, racist and oppressive policing of Black people. So do with those details what you will.
Wow. So any idea how this woman was able to, like, get out and run for help?
Yeah, so that's the case from 2022, just to clarify, because it got a little confusing. That's the case, though, that led to this new one. She says that she was able to slip out of the chains. He had her chained every day in the basement. She was able to get her arms out of the chains and then broke a padlock and got out of the basement and ran to the neighbors for help. And when she was found, she had like tape over her mouth, latex lingerie on, a metal dog collar.
Wow. And I haven't heard of this story until you bringing this up. Like, this is crazy how this hasn't made headlines and been, like, on every news network out there, because this is wild. Like, and who are these other victims? You know, that's like the biggest question that I have, is who are these other victims and what happened to them?
So the only thing I can think of is, that's not true. There's more than one thing I can think of. But the primary reason is the first case happening in October of 2022, she has never been identified. So kudos to that law enforcement agency who has managed to protect her identity in that capacity, because in 2 years, it still isn't out there. So I don't know how they've kept her name from coming out, but they have, and I think that's impressive.
I mean, definitely thinking about it in that light, like, absolutely, this woman is probably scared shitless, just to be frank, and I wouldn't want my name and information out there so that people could track me down, you know, especially after enduring that. So I do believe that she deserves protection, you know, after enduring what we know. You know what I mean? I just, that sounds horrific to me.
Yeah, and as for the other potential victims, it doesn't sound like remains have been found in those potential cases, but also the first woman he picked up was also through a proposition of offering her money. So with the known fact that so far these 2 other women that we know about are Black, the first one that escaped was there for an offer of sex work. Maybe that's what the other 2 women are as well, and don't have people to care to look for them.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a vulnerable population, kind of just given their situation. I can see that. But that is sad. Hopefully they can find and identify these other victims and give some sort of closure to some families, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to have several more developments in the coming months. And I don't think he's getting out of jail anytime soon, so.
Yeah. I mean, $5 million bond.
I did fail to admit he is a white man, so we'll also put that in there if you didn't catch the undertone of he's racist.
Sounds like it.
He is allegedly racist. He is a white man that made those posts. Okay, there. Don't sue me, Hazlitt.
I believe that story needs to be told, even though I agree with you with, you know, protecting the victim that literally fought for her life to get out of that situation. But I believe that stories like this do deserve to be told because there are disgusting people like that out there. All right, we have a lot more coming up here on Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's been 2 years since a South Carolina woman was last seen. Hear the latest from her son. Plus, a bombshell in the courtroom as a judge dismisses the manslaughter case against actor Alec Baldwin. We explain what this means when we come back.
Get ready for that big test with Study.com. Study.com offers learning materials and test prep, even LSAT study prep guides for all of my legal nerds listening. Unfortunately, there aren't any wine study guides, and believe me, I did check. Listeners can get 30% off their first 3 months of any subscription level using the promo code CrimeOverWine. Again, that's promo code CrimeOverWine, no spaces, for 30% off your first 3 months at Study.com. Learn faster, stay motivated, study smarter with our sponsor, Study.com.
Hello, Crime Over Wine listeners. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We are the hosts of Like Mother, Like Murder.
We bring you the good, the badass, and the crime.
Each week, we bring you stories from missing and murdered
to survivors and women who empower you.
And of course, some mom talk sprinkled in.
Check us out wherever you get your podcasts at Like Mother, Like Murder.
And give us a follow on social media so that we can say hi.
Okay, love you, bye.
Okay, love you, bye.
After 2 years, Ruth Jenkins' son remains hopeful she'll come home. Her son Robert tells NBC he returned to Pineville, South Carolina in July of 2022 to check on her and help her with her finances. During this trip, he also learned she was recently diagnosed with dementia. Robert says she left the morning of July 16th for her daily walk. NBC reports a neighbor's Ring camera captured her walking past around 11 a.m., and that's the last time she's ever been seen. There was a massive search party formed and that lasted for about 3 days, but there was no sight of Ruth. Ruth would be 78 years old now. She's described as a black woman between 5'4" and 5'6". She wears glasses and was last seen wearing jeans and a white t-shirt. If you have any information on Ruth's disappearance, call Berkeley County Sheriff's Office at 843-719-4412.
A search is underway for a missing woman in Minnesota. Nicole Anderson, who went by Nikki, went missing on July 6th. Investigators say she was last seen leaving her home around 10 o'clock in the morning. Authorities called Nikki's boyfriend a, quote, person of interest in the case. His home was searched by investigators, and he was arrested on an unrelated warrant for a probation violation. 2 days after Nikki went missing, investigators searched the home where she was last seen by foot and air. They used canines, drones, and helicopters. If you have any information about Nikki Anderson, call 651-438-8477. And it's crazy that this case of the week started on a movie set, and now it's ending with a scene that sounds like it came out of a movie. So in a move that shocked many, the judge dismissed the case against Alec Baldwin with prejudice on the third day of his manslaughter trial. The decision came after the resignation of one of the special prosecutors in the case. Prosecutors argued Baldwin failed to adhere to industry safety standards on the set of the movie Rust, when a .45 caliber revolver Baldwin was handling discharged a live round, killing the film's director of photography, Helena Hutchins, and injuring another. The dismissal came after the case argued prosecutors hid evidence from them about ammunition that may be related to the shooting. Prosecutors argued that the ammunition was not evidence in the case. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice. That means prosecutors cannot bring a future case against Baldwin. So, you guys, this came down on Friday, and I don't think really anyone kind of saw this coming. I mean, maybe they did once there started to be argument about this secret evidence that a, quote, Good Samaritan brought to the sheriff's department. It was ammunition that was put in an evidence envelope, but it was not part of the case file. It was not part of the evidence. And so that's part of like how cases are built and move through the judicial process and go to trial is the state has to hand over all of the evidence in the case to the defense so that they can see what all they have and form their defense. And so the defense argued this was hidden from them, and they believed that it was hidden from them because it would have helped Alec Baldwin in the case. Obviously, the judge agreed there, and that's why we have this decision. But you don't see things like this happen often, and that's why people in the crime world, true crime world, are like, "What in the world?" Like this is like a big deal.
It was quick turnaround that I did not see happening there. I was like, oh, and it's done? Okay, like, because what, this was the second trial? How many times has this happened?
So I just looked it up. So this is he was charged last January of 2023, and those charges were dropped. And then but before they even went to trial, and then they re-indicted him.
Okay. See, I'm not crazy.
Some people are like, well, look at his name, look at, he's a celebrity. People are kind of arguing that. But when you really look at it, when you look at evidence that was hidden, that was not turned over, it was not part of the case file. You processed it, you put it in an in an evidence envelope from the scene. Why wasn't it part of the case file? And then it was a Good Samaritan that turned it over to the sheriff's office. Someone coming forward that knew what was going on. I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with his status as a celebrity. I think that has to do with doing the right thing, being a whistleblower.
So I wonder if the evidence would have affected his trial, or lack thereof evidence. What about the armorer?
So yes, that is definitely something that we will be watching. So Hannah Gutierrez Reed, she's already filed an appeal, and which you have a right to an appeal. That is your right. And so obviously, like if you have a right to it, why not use it? But I definitely feel like this will probably come up in that appeals process. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how this can affect her case. I think it possibly could, because if Alec Baldwin's team didn't have access to this evidence, did her team have access to it? Probably not. You know what I mean? So that will be interesting to see kind of what happens there.
Have there been any statements from her party or the victim's party?
Not that I've seen. I think just everyone's been like shocked. Even like Alec Baldwin, like he didn't make a statement, but if you watch the video from the courtroom, obviously he was very emotional, rightfully so. I completely understand that. So, and it's also like a special prosecutor had to like lost their job on the spot. Like, you know what I mean? That also like doesn't happen.
And I feel like this is also a precedence like being set here moving forward. Like it's going to affect film industry safety in the long run, I think. And possibly Hannah Gutierrez Reed, is that her last name? Her case. So I feel like there's definitely some more ripples coming once all the shock settles down. I didn't realize Jensen Ackles was in this movie. If you don't know who that is, he played Dean Winchester in Supernatural for forever. Allegedly, there was an interview with him where they said a live round was found in his gun too. And he was who Alec Baldwin was supposed to be shooting at for that scene. So it could have been him that was shot. Like, that's just wild. Like,
wow.
This entire thing is, and how many other similar things are happening on other sets that haven't been deadly. Like,
yeah.
That's just scary to think about.
I think another question here is kind of because surrounding, like, are they going to put the movie out? You know what I mean? I know they finished shooting, because I do remember that was a big thing, but I don't know if we have the answer if they're going to put the movie out.
Hold on, our Google.
And also, kind of given everything that's happened, is that going to bring more people, like, if it does come out, like, will more people want to go see it given what we know?
Yeah.
Or no?
I feel people's morbid curiosity would get the best of them, and people who weren't even interested in seeing the movie would go see it just to see if they could pick which scene this was.
Yeah, I could see both things happening. I could see that, like what you just said, Heather, and then I could also see other people that are like, "Oh my gosh, no, I would never." You know, somebody died. I don't want to.
They'll stream it at home.
True.
If they don't go to a theater, they'll stream it later, so they don't contribute to that number. I think people's morbid curiosity will outweigh their sense of justice any day.
How do the people that are making money, you know, from this situation, how do they react? I think, like, the right thing to do would be to like donate profits to either the families of those involved and or organizations that work toward, you know, gun safety and preventing things like this from happening, because people are definitely not going to like people profiting off of someone dying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
At minimum, all of Alec Baldwin's money from this film should go to the victim's family.
Because he was also not only an actor, but he's a producer.
Yeah, and that's why they were trying to hold him to a higher standard of liability, because of that.
Yeah.
Role.
Okay, it looks like a first look at the film was released January 2nd, 2024, showcasing Helena Hutchins' work on the cinematography and her visual style. I didn't know that. We'll include that link to the first look in the show notes.
Just looking at the stills, Liam pulled an article up that has some stills from this. The cinematography work is gorgeous. These were beautiful shots. And the color grading on this and everything, this had potential to be a very beautiful film.
I'm out of wine right now. I need a refill. So, but I guess that means that we're at the end. So thank you everyone for listening. If you can't get enough of Crime Over Wine, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And Michelle will see you next Monday for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly with another special guest. I will be out of town. I'm a slacker. Sorry. Another week, another absence. My B.
Stay tuned to see who it is. It's a surprise.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.